The days following Elena's confessions were some of the most intense in my life. Love, I realized, is never just about passion, it's about endurance, choices, and the aftermath of decisions made in the heart. Every touch, every glance, every word we shared now carried not only the sweetness of intimacy, but also the weight of uncertainty. The world outside seemed to conspire against us. Friends began to question our commitment, offering advice that masked judgment. Family members whispered about compatibility and responsibility, their words sharp as knives, slicing through the fragile bubble we had built around ourselves. And yet, amidst the chaos, Elena and I clung to one another, determined to find stability in each other's arms. One evening, as the city lights flickered against the rainy streets, Elena turned to me with a question that would linger in my mind for days. "Do you think love can survive everything?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. I held her hands tightly, searching her eyes for strength. "I want to believe it can, but love isn't magic, it's choices, trust, and patience. We'll have to face everything together." Her eyes filled with tears, but a faint smile crossed her lips. "I want to try, I really do." And try we did. Every day became a careful balancing act. We navigated societal expectations, personal doubts, and the hidden fears that threatened to tear us apart. There were moments of frustration, arguments fueled by exhaustion and miscommunication, but also moments of unparalleled tenderness, whispers under the stars, laughter that broke through the tension, and silent gestures that spoke louder than words. Yet, even with all our efforts, life's consequences could not be ignored. Elena's responsibilities grew heavier, her obligations pulling her in directions I couldn't follow. I felt the distance creeping in, subtle but undeniable, a reminder that love alone sometimes cannot defy reality. One night, sitting by the fireplace, Elena finally spoke the words that had haunted me for weeks. "I can't keep pretending everything is fine," she said, her voice barely audible. "There are decisions I have to make, choices I can't avoid, and they might mean losing us." My heart clenched. "Elena, whatever happens, know that I will never regret loving you. But please, don't give up on us without trying." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I have to, for my own life, for my sanity. I love you, but love sometimes isn't enough to save everything." The weeks that followed were a storm of emotions. We held each other close, knowing that each embrace could be the last. I tried to support her, to offer strength and reassurance, but deep down, I understood that some battles could only be fought alone. Our love, once a sanctuary, had become a test of endurance. Every moment together was precious, every smile a small victory. But the shadow of inevitable separation loomed over us, a silent reminder that passion and commitment could sometimes clash with reality. One afternoon, as we walked through the quiet streets, Elena paused and looked at me with a mixture of sorrow and determination. "I have to make choices that might hurt both of us," she said softly. "But I hope, someday, you'll understand why." I nodded, my chest heavy with unspoken grief. "I understand, and I will always cherish what we had." As the days passed, we faced the consequences of our love head-on. There were moments of heartbreak, arguments that left us both raw, and silent tears shed in the privacy of our own rooms. But there were also moments of undeniable beauty, shared memories, stolen kisses, and the quiet knowledge that we had loved fully and deeply, without reservation. In the end, Elena had to leave for obligations that I couldn't follow, responsibilities that demanded her presence elsewhere. Our last night together was filled with bittersweet tenderness. We held each other close, words unnecessary, our hearts speaking the language of love and farewell. "Remember me," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "I will," she replied, her voice trembling, "and I will never forget what we shared." When she finally walked away, I realized that love, even when it ends in separation, leaves a permanent mark. It teaches resilience, courage, and the profound truth that loving deeply is worth every ounce of pain. As I watched her disappear into the distance, I understood that life's consequences are not punishments, they are lessons. Love shapes us, challenges us, and transforms us, even when it cannot remain in its original form. And so, with a heart both heavy and full, I faced the world alone, carrying the memory of Alina and our love affair, a love that was passionate, real, and unforgettable. A love that, despite everything, had given me the courage to feel, to trust, and to hope again. The days after our deepening connection were filled with a bliss that seemed almost surreal. Every glance, every touch, every word we shared carried the weight of unspoken promises. But beneath that surface, there was a tension I could no longer ignore, a subtle unease, a shadow lurking behind her laughter, behind the softness in her eyes. It began with small things. Alina would sometimes go silent on the phone, her replies delayed, her tone slightly distracted. I would catch her staring out of windows, lost in thought, as if some internal battle was consuming her. And yet, whenever I asked, she would dismiss it with a smile, a casual shrug, or a gentle squeeze of my hand. "Nothing's wrong," she would insist. "I'm just tired, that's all." But I knew better. Love has a way of teaching you to read between the lines, to hear what is unsaid, and what she was not telling me gnawed at the edges of our perfect moments, threatening to fracture them. One evening, as the city lights flickered outside our apartment, I confronted her gently. "Alina, I feel like something's bothering you. I need to know, what is it?" Her eyes flickered with hesitation, a storm contained in their depths. She swallowed, her lips pressing into a thin line. "It's complicated," she whispered. "Things from my past. Things I thought I had buried." I reached for her hand, gripping it firmly. "Whatever it is, we can face it together. You don't have to carry it alone." She shook her head slowly. "I can't. Some things are too heavy, even for love. You have no idea the mistakes I've made, the people I've hurt. Everyone has a past," I said softly, my thumb brushing over her knuckles. "What matters is the present, the choices we make now. Don't let fear of your past steal our future." She closed her eyes, tears threatening to fall. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I'm scared that if you knew everything, you'd walk away. That the person you love wouldn't exist if the truth came out." I pulled her close, holding her, as if by sheer force I could shield her from her own doubts. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered. "No secret, no mistake, no past can change how I feel about you. But you have to trust me. Trust us." Her body relaxed slightly in my embrace, though the tension never fully left her. That night, as we lay together, I realized that love was no longer just about passion, it was about vulnerability, honesty, and the courage to face not only each other but ourselves. The following weeks were a delicate dance of closeness and caution. She revealed fragments of her past slowly, cautiously, each confession a dagger in her own heart. She spoke of heartbreak, of betrayals, of choices that had left scars both visible and invisible, and I listened, not with judgment, but with the unwavering conviction that our love could survive truth, even when it was painful. But the world outside remained unforgiving. Friends, family, and societal expectations loomed like specters, threatening to pull her away from the fragile sanctuary we had built. There were moments when I saw the fear in her eyes, the fear of being judged, of being abandoned, of losing everything she had fought to protect. One afternoon, she confessed a secret that made my heart clench. "I've been hiding something from you. Something that could change everything between us," she said, her voice trembling. My pulse quickened. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, her hands trembling as they gripped mine. "I'm not as free as you think. There are responsibilities, expectations, things I can't just walk away from." I stared at her, searching for answers in her eyes. "Are you saying you can't be with me?" "I want to," she whispered, tears spilling freely now, more than anything. But love isn't always enough. Sometimes, life has other plans. The weight of her words settled over me like a storm cloud. I wanted to fight, to argue, to insist that we could defy the world together. But I also knew that love demanded patience, understanding, and respect for boundaries even when it was agonizing. Days turned into nights filled with silent tension. Our moments together were tinged with urgency, each touch, each glance a fleeting reminder that our time was fragile. I began to notice the subtle withdrawals, the half-smiles that masked worry, the quiet moments where she seemed miles away even when she was beside me. One evening, I found her sitting by the window, rain streaking down the glass. She looked at me, eyes hollow yet glimmering with a desperate hope. "I don't want to lose this," she admitted. "I don't want to lose us, but I don't know how to hold everything together." "You don't have to hold everything alone," I said gently. Moving to sit beside her, "I'm here. We'll figure it out together, step by step." Her hand found mine, squeezing tightly. "What if it's not enough?" "Then at least we tried," I said, voice firm. And trying together is always better than facing life apart. Despite the uncertainties, despite the fears that threatened to consume us, there were moments of pure, unadulterated joy. Walks in the park, whispered confessions under the stars, quiet evenings wrapped in each other's arms. Each of these moments was a declaration of defiance against the world, a refusal to let circumstance dictate the terms of our love. Yet, as we drew closer, the looming shadows of secrets, expectations, and consequences became harder to ignore. Elena's past, her responsibilities, and the outside world's judgment created a tension that neither of us could fully escape. The love affair that had once felt like a sanctuary now carried the weight of inevitability. The possibility that passion alone might not be enough to withstand life's relentless pressures. Through it all, I learned that love was not simply a feeling. It was a choice, a commitment, a willingness to stand together even when the path was unclear, even when the heart trembled with fear. And with Alina, I realized that the most profound connections were forged not in ease, but in the crucible of shared struggle, honesty, and courage. As the rain pattered softly against the windows, we held each other close, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new confessions, and new moments of vulnerability. But in that embrace, in that fragile intimacy, there was hope, a fragile, persistent hope that even in the face of secrets and fear, love could endure, could survive, and could transform the lives of those brave enough to embrace it fully. The morning sunlight spilled gently through the curtains, painting the room with a soft glow. I woke up to the lingering warmth of her presence beside me, her hair sprawled carelessly across the pillow. It was a moment of stolen serenity, a rare gift in the chaos that had become our secret affair. The memory of last night's whispered confessions still clung to the edges of my mind like a persistent fragrance, sweet and intoxicating. Alina stirred, eyes fluttering open slowly, revealing a vulnerability I had never seen in anyone else. "Good morning," she murmured, her voice husky with sleep. "Good morning," I replied, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. There was a tenderness in that simple gesture that made my chest tighten. Moments like these felt like they belonged to a world apart, a world where no one could judge, interfere, or unravel the fragile bond we had created. We lingered there, suspended between dreams and reality, knowing that the day outside would demand attention, responsibilities, and societal expectations that neither of us wanted to face. But in this quiet cocoon, there was only Uzra, honest and unguarded, over breakfast. We spoke of small things, the trivialities of life that somehow seemed monumental when shared with someone you cared for deeply. Her laughter, light and melodic, filled the apartment, weaving itself into the very walls, claiming them as witnesses to our growing connection. And yet, beneath the lightness, there was an undercurrent of tension, a quiet reminder that our happiness existed in stolen fragments, fragile and fleeting. "I can't keep doing this without knowing where it's going," she admitted suddenly, breaking the comfortable rhythm of our conversation. Her eyes met mine, searching, questioning, vulnerable. I took her hand, my thumb brushing over her knuckles. "I know," I said softly, "and I don't have all the answers. But what I do know is that I don't want to lose this, sis. Every moment with you feels like I've finally found the part of my life that was missing." Her lips quivered, a soft sigh escaping. "It's just, every time we get close, I feel this fear that I'll get hurt, that this isn't real enough to survive the outside world." "It doesn't matter what the outside world thinks," I said firmly, my gaze unwavering. "What matters is what we feel, what we build here, together. That's real. That's ours." Her eyes softened, the tension easing slightly as she leaned into me. There was comfort in her surrender, a quiet acknowledgement that, at least for now, we were in this together. But the fear, I knew, would never fully disappear. Love, after all, was never without risk. The days turned into weeks, and our connection deepened in ways that were both exhilarating and terrifying. Every encounter revealed new layers of who we were, our desires, our insecurities, our hopes, and our fears. We discovered the subtle language of intimacy, a glance that said more than words ever could, a touch that carried the weight of unsaid confessions, a smile that promised a future we dared not articulate aloud. One rainy afternoon, we found ourselves wandering through the city streets, umbrellas shielding us from the drizzle but not from the intensity of our emotions. I could feel her hand brush against mine, tentative at first, then lingering, until our fingers intertwined naturally, as if they had always belonged together. "Alina," I whispered, "do you ever think about what happens if this ends?" She shook her head, her gaze fixed on the wet pavement ahead. "I try not to," she murmured, "but sometimes the thought creeps in, and it terrifies me. I've invested so much already, my heart, my trust, my hope, and yet, here we are," I said softly, choosing to continue, despite the fear. "That's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it real." She looked at me then, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose you." "You won't," I said, though a small private doubt lingered in my mind. Love, as I had learned, demanded courage to trust, to be vulnerable, to risk everything for the fleeting chance of happiness. And with Alina, I had found a courage I didn't know I possessed. Our affair was no longer just a series of stolen moments. It had become a lifeline, a tether to something profoundly human and undeniably intense. We explored each other's worlds, sharing dreams and disappointments, victories and regrets. We laughed until our stomachs hurt, cried until our eyes burned, and held each other through nights of quiet fear. Yet, amidst the passion and connection, there were moments of doubt. Small, insidious doubts that crept in like shadows, threatening to unravel the fragile tapestry we had woven. She would sometimes pull away, retreating into herself, and I would feel a pang of helplessness. How could I convince her that the risk was worth taking, that the love we shared was worth every ounce of fear? One night, as we lay together under the soft glow of candlelight, she whispered, "I sometimes wonder if I'm strong enough for this. If I'm strong enough for you." "Strong enough," I echoed, brushing my lips against her hair. "You are more than strong enough. You've already shown strength by loving, by trusting, by being willing to step into this unknown with me. That's courage, Alina. That's what matters." Her fingers traced patterns on my chest, hesitant yet deliberate, as if she were mapping the contours of my heart with her touch. "And if it all falls apart, then we've loved fully," I said simply, "and that's never a waste." The days continued to pass, each one bringing new experiences, new emotions, and new risks. Our love affair had become an intricate dance of passion and caution, desire and restraint. Every moment was charged with intensity, every touch a reminder of the stakes we faced. And yet, no matter how hard we tried, the outside world loomed a constant, silent threat to the sanctuary we had created. Through it all, I learned that love was not just about joy. It was about resilience, about weathering the storms together, about embracing vulnerability and finding strength in connection. And with Alina, I discovered that the most profound love is often the one that tests you, challenges you, and leaves you exposed, yet undeniably alive. As I watched her sleep that night, I knew that our journey was far from over. There would be trials, heartbreaks, and choices that would test the limits of our commitment. But in that moment, as the city slept around us, I allowed myself to feel hope, to feel the promise of a love that, though fraught with risk, was worth every moment of fear, every stolen glance, every heartbeat shared in quiet intimacy. The affair had deepened, the connection had grown, and the choice had been made to embrace the love that had awakened us, to risk everything for the fleeting, intoxicating taste of what it meant to be truly alive. The rain had started softly, almost like it was hesitant to fall, unsure whether it belonged outside or within my heart. I sat by the large window of my apartment, tracing the droplets with my finger as they slid down the glass. My thoughts wandered, spiraling into memories I could no longer escape. It had begun innocently. A meeting that neither of us had anticipated would become the defining chapter of our lives. Her name, Lena, was the first thing that came to my mind, like a whisper carried by the wind. I remembered the first time I saw her, sunlight spilling over her hair, the faintest smile playing on her lips as she passed by the cafe where I had been reading. There was something effortless about her presence, something that demanded attention without demanding it. She didn't know it yet, but she had already ensnared my thoughts. I had tried to resist, telling myself that this was just a fleeting fascination, a mere distraction from the monotony of my carefully curated life. Yet, fate, with its stubborn insistence, brought her back into my world, again and again. And the moment she looked at me with that knowing glint in her eyes, the moment she laughed at a joke I hadn't even told, I realized it wasn't fascination anymore. It was obsession, a gentle, consuming obsession that grew quietly in the corners of my mind. Our first conversation had been simple, almost banal. She had asked for a book recommendation, and I had suggested something I thought she wouldn't enjoy. To my surprise, she loved it. That small exchange had sparked something neither of us had expected. The next day, I found myself sitting at the same cafe, hoping she would appear again. And she did. Every encounter felt like a secret thread weaving us closer, binding us in ways I didn't yet understand. The nights that followed were filled with stolen moments. A brush of hands here, a lingering gaze there. Words whispered in hushed tones that seemed to belong only to the night. The city lights blurred into a backdrop for our clandestine meetings. I knew it was dangerous, foolish even. Yet the thrill of it made the world feel alive again. Each smile she offered was a spark that ignited a fire I had long forgotten existed. But then, the first crack appeared. I noticed the way she flinched when I mentioned my apartment, the subtle hesitation when I suggested we spend more time together. And yet, she never said no outright. It was a contradiction that both frustrated and intrigued me. I wanted to push her, to uncover the reason behind the walls she had erected around herself. But I also feared breaking the delicate balance we had created. One evening, as the city slept under a blanket of rain, I found her sitting alone on a bench in the park, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee, her eyes distant. I approached quietly, not wanting to startle her. She looked up, surprised, and then smiled a smile that carried both warmth and sorrow. "Alina," I began softly, "you've been avoiding me." She shook her head, her hair falling like a curtain over her face. "I haven't," she murmured, though her voice betrayed her hesitation. "I've just been thinking." "About what?" I asked, sitting beside her. The bench creaked under my weight, a small, intimate sound that seemed louder than it should have been in the quiet night. She looked at me then, her eyes glistening with something I couldn't quite place. "About us," she whispered. "About what we're doing." I nodded slowly, understanding exactly what she meant. Our affair was a delicate thread, easy to snap with a single wrong move. Yet, the danger, the secrecy, it only made it more intoxicating. "I know it's risky," I admitted, my hand brushing hers. "But it feels inevitable, like the world has been waiting for us to find this moment." Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something, and then she let out a small sigh. "I know. It's just, sometimes I wonder if comfort is safer. If stability would protect me from the heartbreak I feel creeping around the edges." I tilted my head, studying her face in the dim glow of the streetlights. "Comfort can never compare to passion," I said firmly. "It can't make your heart race, can't make you ache for someone when they're not near. This is real. This is life." She smiled, a faint, bittersweet smile that tugged at something deep inside me. "And yet, it scares me," she admitted. "I've lost before. I don't want to lose again." "You won't lose me," I said, though the truth lingered unspoken between us. We were both aware that life rarely allowed us such certainty. Still, in that moment, it didn't matter. What mattered was the pulse of connection, the electricity that flared whenever our hands met, the stolen kisses that promised a world just for us. Days turned into weeks, and our affair deepened. We discovered parts of each other that were raw, unguarded, and unpolished. Her laughter became my favorite sound, her tears my heaviest burden. Every shared secret, every quiet touch, wove a tapestry that neither of us could ignore. We were reckless, vulnerable, and wholly alive. But love, as I had learned, was never just about the warmth of connection. It was also about fear, the fear of losing what you hold most dear. And slowly, I began to notice the tension in her smile, the hesitation in her words, the small, fleeting glances toward paths we could never walk together openly. One evening, as rain painted the city in streaks of silver and gray, I confronted her. We sat across from each other in the dimly lit apartment, the silence between us heavy with unspoken truths. "Alina," I said, my voice firm but gentle, "there's something you're not telling me." Her eyes flickered, darting to the side as if searching for an escape. I don't know if I can do this," she admitted finally. "The risk, it's too much." I leaned forward, my hand finding hers on the table. "Tell me what scares you. Let me understand." She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. "It's not you. It's everything else. What people will think. What I might lose. I've chosen comfort before, and I can't do it again. But sometimes, I wonder if the right choice isn't choosing safety over this madness." I let out a slow breath, my chest tightening. "Madness," I said softly, "is what makes us feel alive. Love isn't meant to be safe, Alina. If it is, it's just a shadow of what it could be." She looked at me, her eyes glossy with emotion. "And what if I fall too hard, and you walk away? What if I risk everything and lose?" I took her hand, holding it firmly. "Then we risk together. That's the only way this works." The night stretched on, our conversation a delicate dance of hope and fear. I watched as she wrestled with her own heart, the weight of past choices pressing down on her. And though the future was uncertain, though the path we walked was riddled with peril, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. I couldn't turn away from her. Not now, not ever. As the clock struck midnight, we sat in silence, hands entwined, hearts aligned yet trembling with the knowledge that the storm outside mirrored the storm within. Our affair had begun, fragile and uncertain, yet brimming with an intensity that neither comfort nor fear could diminish. And in that quiet, rain-soaked night, I realized that love, in its rawest form, demanded a choice, to embrace it fully or let it slip into nothingness. And for the first time in years, I chose without hesitation, without doubt. The first chapter of our forbidden affair had begun, and there was no turning back.